This is a story about a character named Francesca da Silva who runs away from home when she's 18 after she's caught in bed with a girl. And she goes on to become a famous artist. And her sister, Isabella, who as a child was predicted to become a famous writer, has not had very good luck in life. And this, after 8 years of being away, Francesca is coming home for the first time for her grandmother's funeral. So Isabella is anxiously awaiting her sister's return. Isabella wore a swimsuit under her clothes. It was her latest innovation to emphasize her shrinking form, the slow dissipation being the result of a diet Vivian had insisted upon after Isabella gained 26 pounds in the mental hospital. She sat in the living room now on the day after Evelyn Horowitz's death, awaiting the arrival of her long-disappeared sister. She tried to think of her grandmother, to feel anything at all about poor dead Evelyn. But ever since she'd received word of her sister's imminent return, she'd been distracted. Never mind the fact that the seam of the bathing suit pulled at the tender flesh inside her thighs. She crossed her legs, uncrossed them, recrossed them with the other leg on top. "I know," she said, surprised when the words escaped the barrier of her lips. "I'll make a cup of tea." A cup of tea, thought Isabella, was a good slimming thing, with the added benefit of calming her nerves, or at least helping her appear to be someone who possessed calm nerves. She walked into the kitchen and put a pot of water on the stove. Slowly, ceremoniously, she removed the flat red box of tea bags from the cabinet, pulled one out by its string, and placed it in a mug. Each movement she performed carefully, self-consciously, as though her sister was already home, watching. In the hospital, with no vodka to slow down her thinking, Isabella had learned to soothe herself by enumerating metaphors. The crack of ice cubes under heat, mania, versus the slow bleeding of brown tea into hot water, depression. The patter of boiling water on the pillow of tea, mania, versus the immeasurable slowness of heat, depression. Less coherent analogies followed, the hyper-productive, prodigious fertility of tropical fauna versus the cold, still bottom of the sea. Cities were mania, farmlands, depression. Paris was mania, New Hampshire, depression. The jungle, mania, the tight, claustrophobic woods of New England, depression. Cars, food, music, all of it could be mania, all of it depression. Occasionally, one could be trapped inside both moods at the same time. This was the worst of all feelings, a fast slowing down, a slow speeding up, a car accident in slow motion, a coma full of busy, sexy adventure dreams while people stood over you, talking, weeping, holding flowers, invading your pleasure. She was, she decided, looking forward to seeing her sister. She'd never really disliked Francesca. It was more of an overcrowding problem. There hadn't been room in the house for both of them. There were only 2 bedrooms after all, and they were a physically substantial family, every one of them but Vivian clearing 5'7", every one of them but Vivian sporting broad shoulders and wide hips. In fact, Isabella thought, she'd even missed Francesca from time to time. After all, she'd been the one to learn of Francesca's existence from a newspaper article, to cut out her picture and track down Lisa Sinsong, that bitch, to make sure Francesca was all right. She was glad to have a sister, someone with whom she imagined playing charades and eating pizza, running about the neighborhood in the wee hours and setting the dogs on edge. Though she wished Francesca had grown up as expected into a simple ugly girl with scant personality, employed by a factory or a bar, flipping burgers or pumping gas, and living in New Hampshire in a trailer. Perhaps coming home to visit occasionally, very occasionally, accompanied by a mangy mutt whose presence drove Vivian so crazy she couldn't wait for Francesca to leave. But friendship seemed unlikely now that her sister was a cult figure, while Isabella was a melted candle, a smoked cigarette, the ashy remains of a wet fireplace log, the antithesis of the child prodigy, having nothing to look forward to but appointments with her psychiatrist, advancements in pharmacology, and the hope that if she did not kill herself, she might lose her mind once and for all, rather than simply misplacing it over and over again, and finding upon its return that it offered less promise and more grief. These were her thoughts at the moment she heard the crunching of gravel under tires. She ran to the picture window, pressed her palms to the glass, leaving sticky childish prints behind, and watched as a small red VW Rabbit came to a stop at the bottom of the driveway. "Mom, come quick," she screamed, then ran upstairs and hid in the attic.